Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for Tuesday, November 1st, 2016. First order of business is the roll call and determination of quorum, please.
Doyle.
Here.
Estes. Solomon. Here. Drew. Here. Nordstrom. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Brenda. Next, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion.
I have a motion by Alderman Solomon and a second by Alderman Nordstrom to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Agenda is adopted. Now is the time for general public comment, which is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns. How many times have I done this over the years? It's like the first time today. To the committee on any issue not limited to items on the agenda. Action, however, will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement thereon by unanimous vote of the aldermen present. I have no general public comment forms, so we will move on to consent items 1 through 22. I am opening and closing public comment, seeing no one waving any forms at me. I have item 18 to remove. Anyone else? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt the balance of consent items 1 through 22 with the exception of 18.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Alderman Solomon.
I second the motion.
And a second by Alderwoman Drew. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent calendar items 1 through 22 with the exception of number 18 are approved. Number 18 is to authorize staff to purchase a slow-speed grinder for the solid waste material recovery facility utilizing the specification and bids from the city of Gering, Nebraska in the amount of $709,875. And we'll go to Alderwoman Drew, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions for Carl, as long as he's here during this meeting.
Good afternoon, Carl Murbach, Superintendent of the Solid Waste Facilities.
Well, welcome, Carl. My question is, so we used the specification bids from the city of Gering. Is that a comparable city? Is that why we used that?
Yes, it was. Gering, Nebraska, just no more than 3 months ago, went through the competitive bidding process for a grinder that we will be doing the same thing we are. They're going to be grinding their household garbage, their debris at the landfill for the same purpose we are looking for, and that is to save space. If you look at many of the items we get into the landfill, such as mattresses, couches, even running those over with a big heavy machine, they tend to bounce back. They really don't compact. By grinding these, we are able to reduce that volume, recover some of the things like metal from the mattresses or couches out of there, and it will be a cost savings. We look within a year to be able to pay that back just in cost savings for landfill space and recovery there.
Cost savings, you mean by that the space that won't be filled up? Is that what you're talking about in cost savings to the city?
Exactly. At $59 per ton, which is our normal household garbage rate, what we would save in airspace will more than enough over time be able to pay for that, just keeping those bulk items out of there.
Okay, so this is a pretty spendy piece of equipment. Do you feel that the bids will mainly come in around $700,000? Is that what we're looking at?
Right, and again, the reason we recommended going with Gering is they did the same thing we would have done. They put together specifications. We've reviewed the specifications. They did receive 3 bids from 3 different companies and grinders. They have done exactly the same thing that we would have done in our specifications. It does save us time. We believe we had budgeted over $800,000 for this piece of equipment. We believe the bids came in very competitively, and it's a good idea. We did the same thing here a couple of years ago with our large compactor. That was $550,000. We went off the bid from the city of Watertown and just used their exact same specifications, bids, contracts, everything else to go with a large piece of equipment. These are specialized pieces of equipment just for these purposes.
And so I gather from what you're saying, this was in the budget for this year to
Yes,
purchase
it
this?
was.
Okay, that's the conclusion of my questions. Thank you very much.
Alderman Nordstrom, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of follow-up questions, Mr. Murbach, if I may, has to do with the bidding process. Is there a reason why we did not go through or investigate the Western States Contracting Alliance? I call it WISCA. Is there any reasons why some other alternative bid processes were not reviewed?
One of the reasons that we did go with this was due to the specific nature of the specifications for this grinder. There are similar grinders that do wood, tires, other things. This one was specifically designed and specified for grinding municipal solid waste or household garbage, construction debris, other things there. So we thought it did meet our needs versus going specifically with maybe a more generic type of piece of equipment that we would get on just going through, say, a national bid.
Thank you. I appreciate your explanation and also doing the best you can for what we get for the bang for the buck and looking at other resources. So that's my primary why I'm asking that question is because there is other alternatives out there for going through a bid selection. And so that was the premise of my question is there are other resources available to us. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. Alderman Salomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion to approve item number 18.
Second that motion.
The motion by Solomon, second by Drew to approve item number 18. Would you like to retain the floor, sir?
No.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item 18 carries. We are now to the end of the consent calendar and on to non-consent items 23 through 30. Seeing no speaker forms, I will open and close public comment. Understand Stacy Titus is here to give us an update on the next 8 items.
I'd like to thank the Public Works Committee for allowing me to present the update on the East Rapid City Water Users Region. I'm Stacy Titus, Design Group Coordinator for Engineering Services. In 1988, a 12-inch water line was constructed out to the new terminal building for the Rapid City Regional Airport. The original design of the 12-inch water line was to meet the water demands for the airport as well as provide 1,500 gallons per minute for fire protection. The original water line was a single feed that started at the intersection of Sedovie and St. Patrick Street and extended out to the airport. In 2003, there were discussions that occurred between Public Works, airport staff, as well as the fire department regarding increased fire flow requirements, changes in the fire flows, diminishing fire flows, as well as increases in water demands on the 12-inch water line. By 2007, a looped system was constructed on Elkville Road to strengthen that system. And basically what this did was bring that system back to its original design of meeting the water demands for the airport and the 1,500 gallons per minute fire flows. Later on, in 2008, a new reservoir was constructed on the east side of Elkville Road. This reservoir provided additional water storage for the airport as well as for all of Rapid City. However, additional discussions were occurring between airport staff, Public Works, and the fire department regarding the new requirements for fire protection at the airport. There were a number of structures at the airport that now required in excess of 4,000 gallons per minute for fire protection. In addition, there were a number of developments occurring along Highway 44 that were wanting to receive water service that would take demands off this system. Public Works devised a plan to look at 3 options for providing additional fire protection for Rapid City Regional Airport. Option 1 was to construct a new water main out to the airport. Option 2 was to provide for an on-site storage and fire pumps. And option 3 was to look at additional storage to the northeast of the airport. In July of 2009, a study was completed and prepared and completed in July 2009 by Cadmus, Lee and Jackson and AE2S that evaluated the 3 options discussed. And their recommendation was to construct a 16-inch water main to the airport to provide for looping. The project was broken into 4 project components. Prior to starting the project, authorization to provide service outside the city of Rapid City was granted in April of 2012. The area identified to provide service outside the city is in the hatched area on the exhibit that you see. Construction starts in August 2012 on the first airport project line, and the last airport project was completed in December 2015. In December of 2015, the fire department reports that fire flows at the airport after completion of the looping project test in excess of 4,000 gallons per minute as compared to less than 1,500 gallons per minute prior to the water looping project. Tim Billings, Division Chief, Fire and Life Safety, commented that the airport water discussion started in 2003 and the system performance now can be considered as a reliable water supply. 4 mayors, 4 PW directors, 3 fire chiefs, 2 fire marshals, and 4 aircraft fire rescue captains. While the airport water looping project was being constructed, the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources contacts the city regarding public water systems or subdivisions located between the airport and the city that are dealing with water quality issues. South Dakota DNR inquires if the city would be willing to provide water service to these water systems. A report was prepared by CTEC Engineering for a water system facilities plan. The facilities plan addressed the project needs that the state had discussed, as well as some additional city requirements or city water needs. There are 3 subdivisions that DNR was wanting to have addressed concerning water quality. And that's Valley View subdivision along Radar Hill Road, Mesa View subdivision along Longview Road, and Terracotta subdivision south of Southside Drive. In addition to these projects, the city of Rapid City wanted to construct a water line to the water reclamation facility to provide city water to that facility, as well as construct a looping project between Longview Road and Highway 44 on Anderson Road. March of 2014, an application for funding was submitted to the state. July of 2014, the state notifies the city that they are the recipients of a consolidated water grant and an SRF loan funding package. Rapid City Journal reports city receives $5.6 million in grant and SRF loan. The funding package, or the summary for the funding package for the East Rapid City water main extensions, consists of $1.5 million of utility support fund, or formerly .16 fund, state funds consisting of $4,626,000 of SRF loan, and a $1 million consolidated water grant. Total funding package, $7,126,000. It is worth noting that the $4,626,000 SRF loan, $3 million of that is principal forgiveness, which equates to a principal and interest payment for the city of $1,626,000. State came with a $1 million grant and $3 million in principal forgiveness. The agenda items concerning the East Rapid City water users region are comprised of 3 subject matters. The first items are the existing water distribution system transfers to the city. There are 2 subdivisions that are relatively new in this area, Terracotta and Valley View. The existing water distribution systems meet city standards, and as a cost savings to lower the project costs, it was desirable to acquire these distribution systems rather than purchase or rather than construct new distribution systems within the subdivisions. So those are the 2 items there concerning distribution system transfers. The second matter is a resolution establishing a surcharge for the East Rapid City Waters Users Region as a mechanism to repay the Water Enterprise Fund for the principal and interest component of the SRF loan package. That's that $1,626,000 that we talked about earlier. And then the last matter are individual water customer service agreements within the East Rapid City Waters users. It is important to have individual water service agreements in this area to incorporate the municipal ordinances regarding the water system outside the city limits, as well as to acknowledge or adopt the surcharge resolution that the users will be paying as part of the agreement for water service. The request of the Public Works Committee would be to acknowledge this presentation, agenda item number 23, authorize mayor and finance officer to sign agreements concerning transfer of water systems, agenda items 24 and 25, authorize mayor and finance officer to sign resolution establishing a surcharge for the East Rapid City Waters Users Region, agenda item 26, and approve water service agreement forms, agenda items 27, 28, 29, and 30. That's all I have.
Alderman Estes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could I ask Stacy a few questions?
Please.
Stacy, we've got 3 distinct residential areas, you named them, that we're going to tie on to. And we're dealing then, once we tie on, we're selling the water to each individual that lives within that?
That is correct. The city is not selling as a wholesaler or selling bulk water to an association or a private entity. We are going to sell to individual water customers. The intent is that these customers are the same as city customers. We have water accounts with individual residents.
Okay, so the surcharge is $65 per person. If you got 200 people, we're getting $13,000 a month revenue to pay off the 1.6 in the loan after the principal forgiveness would be how that works.
Yeah, the surcharge is based on the number of connections that are going to be made, number of water accounts. And the way it was set up is we took 75% of the existing residential homes that are out there. It was somewhere around 180 accounts we're assuming will be connected. We took the 1,626,000, added a contingency in case price costs go up of another million, and that is how the $65 was derived. That's over 20 years. Now, the hope is there'll be a lot more water connections than 184, and in the event that there are more connections, the period or the time of the $65 gets diminished. In essence, the loan or the principal and interest would be paid back in 15 years rather than 20 years.
And I recall we're doing this because I think we had rural or western water come in, and these people are experiencing poor water quality, and this is the right thing to do. But concern I have is that although we're delivering our water to each customer independently, we're hooking up to infrastructure that we've had no part in. Is there any chance that the water that we deliver can be contaminated through any part of their infrastructure? So that, I mean, I'm just looking at liability issues where we're delivered water through an infrastructure or a delivery system that we've had no design input in on. Is there any risk in that?
I think the risk is minimal. What we're looking at are subdivisions that were approved after approximately 2000. Most of these subdivisions met City of Rapid City specifications. Terracotta was designed per the subdivision requirements for City of Rapid City, so that distribution system was to meet the city requirements. The supply is where the issue is, and the supplies will be physically disconnected from these distribution systems so that we shouldn't have an issue with contamination issues. These are primarily radionuclides as far as the contaminant out there. So I believe it's a minimal risk.
Okay, I have two more questions. So is any of this water going into that beautiful old water tower that came from Wall?
No.
Okay, all right. Should have had my name on it instead of Wall Drug, but anyway, that's a different story. No.
Wow.
Yeah, come on, no, you guys, we can't. My last question is, could you please clear up for me, I don't know if this benefits anybody else. So we're charging these people out of town our rate, the city rate for water, but they're having a surcharge. And then I thought that there was a different rate for water for people who lived outside the city limits. So is there a clear way to set us straight on as to when and how we arrive at people from out of the city limits pay what they pay for their water?
Yes, back in I think it was 2009 when we asked authorization to provide water outside of city limits. There was an accompanying resolution that revised the 2005 resolution, I believe it was. The original 2005 resolution stated that you would pay 150% of the city, and then if you did not annex when you were contiguous, it would jump up to a higher rate. This project, it was determined that people don't have an opportunity to annex. If they physically are not contiguous, they cannot annex. So the resolution was modified at that time to state that water service outside the city would be the same as in city. However, there is a 300% escalation if you're contiguous and you don't annex at that time. So that is what the resolution currently has. So there is no change in rates right now if you are not contiguous to the city. The surcharge is the mechanism to repay the principal and interest.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Estes. We'll go to Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A parliamentary question. Do you want to handle each one of these individually, or would you be satisfied with the recommendation that the staff had on that last slide that is presented?
We have no city attorney today. I would be comfortable taking them all at once. Not in the chair, on a microphone, as in on public record. So, Mr. Nyberg, the question is, may we just consider all of these in one motion? Would that be suitable, or should we take them independently?
I think you could take them all up as one motion if you wanted to just approve the items as listed. The first one is titled an update, so that's an acknowledgement, I guess.
Right.
But if you want to approve the entire list, I think that works.
Thank you, sir.
If I may make that as a motion, then to approve them all, and with the number 23 as the acknowledgement. That'll be my motion.
I have a motion by Nordstrom and a second by Estes to approve all of these with the exception of 23 being an acknowledgement rather than an approval. Is there any further discussion on any of these items?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Nordstrom.
Thank you. And I just wanted to thank the staff for all the time and years and mayors going through for finally getting this project accomplished. And I also want to thank everyone that was involved on this to avoid any major disaster that happened or could have happened, including the airport. There's a lot of critical issues that could have happened or taken place, and even in the water construction phase, and I did not hear of any injuries or accidents or anything like that. So I want to applaud everybody that took part in that and avoided what could have been a very bad situation. So thank you for doing that. And then I also want to acknowledge that there's a lot of moving parts in all of this. And Stacy, I don't know if you were the supreme oversight director on all of this, but thank you for this presentation here as well. It took a lot of work, a lot of time, and I understand totally the price tag on it. If I may ask Stacy about the water accounts issue, I think that was some good questions that were brought up initially on the water accounts that are going to be on the users. Is that going to be read by our water meter readers, or is that going to be handled by their HOAs? Explain how that works.
These customers would be treated the same as any customer in the city of Rapid City. Our operations staff will read the meters through the radio read technology and provide water bills to each individual customer.
Thank you. Again, thank you for that, and I really appreciate all the extra work that you guys put into this, and can't say enough about the water quality that we're going to see improved for the residents out as our neighbors to the city of Rapid City. Thank you.
Thank you, Richie. Alderwoman Drew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an additional question for Mr. Titus. You mentioned just a little bit about the safety of the water. I didn't really understand. You said something about nucleotides or something like that. Could you please expand on that just a little bit? Water safety is important, and I just want to make sure going forward that I know what I'm voting on.
Certainly. As a public water supply system for the state of South Dakota, these public water supplies have to do a water quality report to South Dakota DNR. So they report their water quality standards. City of Rapid City reports ours as well. These subdivisions had, if you look at the individual reports, there's multiple different issues that they had with their water sources as far as water quality goes. The primary concern was what's called a radiological contaminants. And these are radionuclides that are naturally occurring in some of the aquifers out there and can be a carcinogen. So that's the issue that DNR is reporting. If each of these individual systems was to treat that water for that contaminant, their treatment processes could be in excess of several millions of dollars. It's very expensive, and that's why the state approached the city about providing source water to these areas rather than the state investing in treatment processes on their individual wells.
Thank you. That really does help, and I appreciate Councilman Estes's comments on the lines that aren't ours that are going to be used to make sure that those are still within the health standards that we try to adhere to. And kudos also I've got to echo Nordstrom's comments here, because this really was a long and difficult effort, so thank you for your work.
Thanks.
And back to Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I forgot to ask one more question, and I don't know if this goes to Stacy or to the Public Works Director of Dale Tech. It has to do with,
We'll see what happens.
I'm sorry?
Just let it out with it. We'll see what happens.
Very good. Has to do with the utility support funds and how that is not so much how that's getting reimbursed, but the balance sheet. And I don't need an answer today, but if I could have a synopsis of what that is involved, how that works, and again, I don't need an answer today, but just how did that part of that whole funding mechanism work in this process?
I'll defer to Dale.
Thank you.
Would that be something more suited to bring to next CIP meeting, perhaps? Mr. Tech?
Well, I think I can address it in general terms. The Utility Support Fund was created as a revolving fund. However, changes over time have made one-time expenditures out of it not necessarily appropriate, but that's what's happened to the fund. However, anytime we do any sort of utility expansion, we do connection fees or construction fees, they're called. In fact, on today's agenda, there were 4 construction fees that were there, and those were all utility support fund fees that were expended that we will recoup sometime as people hook up to the system or as development occurs. So in general terms, the utility support fund is a revolving fund, and we look to recapture those funds as development or as building permits occur.
Madam Chair, one more question. Dale, on that fund itself, are we in good standing? Are we okay? Or is our balance doing all right? Just in general.
Yeah, the balance is fine. It's you know, the old name was 0.16. Well, it was a portion of our sales tax that goes in there annually. So there's a revenue stream coming into the fund annually. We do have a separate committee. I believe it's the Utility Support Fund and SAB committee, or Utility Facilities Committee, I think. Does not meet regularly. That's because we've programmed the dollars available in those funds out, and no new requests have come in. We are at that time where we are going to have some funding requests coming forward to that committee and then on to the City Council for future projects, because we try to get projects out for the next 5 years that would utilize these funds. So I would be looking in the next probably 60 days that there will be a utility facilities committee meeting held to talk specifically about the utility support fund, where it's at, how much revenue or how much money is in it, and what our plans are for the next 5 years as far as utility expansion projects.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That takes care of everything for me.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? I do have a motion on the floor to acknowledge item number 23 and approve items 24 through 30. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. A motion
I'll
by
second it.
Estes and a second by Solomon to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.